Well, hello and welcome to this edition of FOP-TV On Demand. Today's topic is citizens review boards, citizens oversight. So across the country, there are jurisdictions that are having discussions on police reform and whether or not citizens oversight is something that's warranted or improved on their present models. So with us today, my name is President Yoes. I'm the National President of Fraternal Order of Police, and with me today is Larry James, our General Counsel for the Fraternal Order of Police. Larry, take a minute to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Larry James. I've been General Counsel for the National Fraternal Order of Police since 2001. Before that, I was Safety Director, having approximately 1,400 plus officers as Safety Director. I've investigated for internal affairs. I've dealt with a lot of community-related issues as it relates to the police department. I've been General Counsel before for the NAACP as well as the Columbus Urban League.
All right, thank you, Larry. And so across the country, we're engaged in discussions on whether or not there needs to be police reform or what type of police reform, and as we navigate through a number of social issues in today's society. One of the things that has been discussed extensively is the need for citizens review boards. The interesting thing is citizens review boards have been around for quite some time, all the way back into the 1930s. In one instance, and if you look at the cities that seem to be having a lot of the serious problems that exist today, they're cities that have had long-term citizens review boards. So can you give a little bit of a historical perspective on citizens review boards, how they came about, how they've been used in different cities across America?
Yes, I think as you indicated, Pat, these go back as Los Angeles has had a citizen review board since 1920. All the major cities, almost without exception, have civilian review boards, and they come in various form with various budgets. You know, Baltimore, Miami-Dade, Las Vegas, Detroit, Memphis, San Francisco, Boston. And I think the idea was to have citizen participation. What the misnomer is in most jurisdictions, even those that don't have the traditional civilian review boards, they have civil service commissions, they have city council, all of these things. The real problem is, as they've established these civilian review boards, they have not had law enforcement participation to say, here's some thoughts, here's how the civilian review board might be improved. But generally speaking, if you look at the major cities, you Google them, you'll see almost without exception, no one's happy. Minneapolis has had a civilian review board forever.
Yeah, so there really are four types of citizens review boards, correct? Can you kind of break them down for us? Tell us the each one, what their pros and cons are, and how they fit into this narrative.
Well, the first one, investigative civilian review board, really takes the position of the chain of command in investigating and recommending discipline. So you take the chief of police out of it, and you create a body that's going to be involved in that. The second one is a hybrid of that, where they'll take the investigation from the internal investigation group and make a recommendation to the chief as that. The third one, again, is similar, but it simply may augment or investigate or take the recommendations of the agency, look at them, evaluate them, and then make their counter recommendation. The audit policy is the one that we like the best. And all of these have subpoena power. The audit model, we had recommended subpoena power, but not for the officer being investigated. So if the civilian review board wanted to go back and look at the consistency of discipline and evaluate that, are they treating the officers same? They can look at the training, they can look at the prioritizing of the budget. It's a policy body that really can, if it's done right, it can help our officers with the tools they need. One of the things the civilian review board might do right now with all this issue of police defunding and things of that sort is really say, what are we talking about? Because most people don't know. So this is why we like the audit model.
Yeah. So You know, we talked when I started. I explained that we examined this issue and trying to find the most current relevant information to share with our members as they engage in these discussions in their local jurisdictions. And we created a task force with it. Can you talk a little bit about the task force? Who served on the task force, and sort of the process you went through to come up with your findings?
Well, as a result of your recommendation and the executive board, we put together lawyers who are well versed in various law enforcement representation, and we included in that also Tim Mullaney, who's Director of Labor Services, and Mike Coviello, who's also involved in labor services. And both of those go around the country dealing with all our various lodges. Gwen Callender from Ohio, Tara Cummings from Illinois, Lance LaRusso from Georgia, who also used to be a police officer and still is credentialed, Paul Deragati from Florida, and Richard Paulson from Pennsylvania. So we wanted to have a diverse group that looked at the various issues and also had experience with civilian review boards and say, how do we come up with the best policy on the basis of our experience and training? Because bottom line, as we've seen earlier, these civilian review boards are across the nation and they're being revisited. Those that don't have, such as Columbus, Ohio, the mayor has put it on for a ballot issue without giving any specificity as to the term. So this was the group that we thought put together the best brain trust and make the recommendations.
So really, you know, just when it comes to, you look at your 4 different models, really the one that's preferred is the one that takes some of the emotion out of this and bases it off of fact. And that's how we came across this. So if you could just a little talk about the purpose of the task force, how you came about coming up with this model itself.
Well, we reviewed over 120 various oversight boards and commission and looked at their costs, looked at their staffing, looking at their training, and try to say what makes the most sense. And even as we came up with our recommendation of looking at the 120 plus boards and commissions, we knew that one size would not fit all. So the idea is look at your jurisdiction and what works best for you, if anything does.
Yeah. Okay. So why do we need a model policy? I think you've sort of addressed that, but I'm going to ask it a little clearer. If we look at these cities that have multiple, I mean, really multi-million-dollar budgets in order to have a citizens review board, and they have not been effective, these are some of the same cities that are dealing with what a lot of the unrest that we see in America today. Why do we need a model policy? What can be gained from the recommendation we have for the policy, the audit model?
Yeah, I think if any jurisdiction wants to adopt a civilian review board, it doesn't need the union approval, and they can do that. And we've seen that countrywide. So when we look at a Chicago with a budget of 13 million, when we look at New York with a budget of 16 million, when we look at Minneapolis with a budget of 1 million. So we thought we would give our members a policy so they understood the history of civilian review boards and commissions and determine how they might adapt. Because one thing we know, these bodies will be imposed upon us. So the question is, can we offer intelligence to say, wait a minute? And I remember a lot of the command staff when I was safety director, they used to say to me, Director, tell me what you're trying to achieve and let us help you get there and get a better policy or program that would be effective and really serve the purpose and mission of what you're trying to do as you create a civilian review board. So it's a benchmark, it's a guideline that our members and our lodges can use to have discussion with civic leaders, elected leaders to say, here's what's happened. We here in Columbus, the mayor, as I said earlier, has just put it on the ballot for election that it will be a part of the charter. So it's going to happen.
So how should this policy be used? If a jurisdiction's having, as you mentioned, Columbus, and there are others that are having these conversations about implementing a citizens review board, how would a local lodge or a union go about in using this policy in order to be able to engage in that discussion in these jurisdictions that are having these are debating this issue?
I think twofold. I think first is educating the membership of what's going on in this area and Civilian Review Board, because I think our officers probably are going to want to fight it at the beginning, and that's a fight we're probably going to lose, because the jurisdictions, almost without exception, have the authority to impose these type of things. So educating our members and giving them the talking points and equipping them to go out and educate, again, the public officials, the various civic associations, and it just gives them the opportunity to, like we did with the model body cam policy. Here's your talking points, here are your negotiating points. And I think if we look here recently at a local jurisdiction, I think they actually modeled the Civilian Review Board after the policy that we recommended.
Yeah, and one important part that we often overlook, law enforcement officers are trained. They train to a certain set of standards and a certain understanding of policies and procedures and the responsibilities within those guidelines. Now you put together a Citizens Review Board. That Citizens Review Board really needs to have a working knowledge of all of these practices as well, in order to be able to make those informed decisions. So can you talk just a little bit about, so Citizens Review Boards we're talking about, they sound good, it does work, and we're having these conversations about implementing them, but what's the expectation on the public side, on the Citizens Review Board itself, in order to be able to take the emotion out of this equation and based off of fact?
Well, I think that what we want to do is talk about how you're going to staff a Civilian Review Board. What's the training? Shoot, don't shoot, knock, warrants or no knock warrants. What is going to be the technical assistance at a Civilian Review Board? Is it going to be compensated, not compensated? What is the educational level? Are there disqualifiers of members to participate in the Civilian Review Board as a member? So I think what we try to do is, here's the training that your board members are going to need. How long do they stay? Is it a sunset provision? Is it, how independent is it? Who does it answer to? How does the appointment process? So we go through all of these vignettes in our policy, our historical perspective, the do's and don'ts of the policy.
Yeah. So how do you get a copy of the model policy and the work of the Citizens Review Board Task Force? Immediately upon the conclusion of watching this video, the address that you use to register is going to email a copy of the policy to you. In addition to that, if you need a copy, you can email lapp@fop.net. That's Leanne Pemberton. She's our office manager at our national headquarters, and she'll share a copy with you as well. So Larry, thank you very much for sharing, and thank the members of the task force for the hard work that they did, empowering our members in order to be able to have the discussions on police reform based on fact and some historical perspective. Our goal is to have the best trained and most professional law enforcement agencies in America, and we want to be part of that solution. So thank you for sharing this information. FOP-TV on demand is a weekly video that we put out with timely issues that are important to our members and to empower them with the tools they need to be effective leaders. So please follow, and every week we'll have a new episode coming out. Thank you very much for all you do, and Larry, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.